And we're live.
Thank you, Gary, and welcome to a live demonstration. It's been a while. We were calculating it's at least 9 months since we were able to do a live, and that was because the technology was a bit glitchy, but Gary is very happy bunny and he's got all shiny new stuff, and so hopefully going forward we'll do lots more live demonstrations. So welcome. Today I'm going to introduce you to the SAA Soft Pastels. But I hear you cry, we already have the SAA Soft Pastels. We do, but these are a new range because we've had to change the supplier. So we have a whole new range of SAA Soft Pastels. They're at the harder end of the soft pastel range, but they still give that really great lay down of colour. And they're just a really lovely tool to work with. Now, I will apologise in advance that I'll probably get pastel everywhere, including all over my face. I try not to, but I tend to walk around and then someone says, you've been doing pastels. A bit of a giveaway when there's a big smudge on my nose. So I apologise in advance, but I will try and keep my hands clean. So the first thing you do when you get pastels in any colour, because each colour will vary. Some colours, I don't know if you can see this one, it's slightly shinier on the outside, so that pigment is a little harder. Doesn't mean it doesn't work, it just means that sometimes you have to expose the end, or it is a slightly harder pastel, because each pigment is different, so different size, different quality, and that will affect each different colour of pastel. But on the whole, this whole range is really nice and soft. Again, you can see there's a bit of a shine round it, whereas some of these here are much duller and softer. In the new SAA range for 2022, the colours go from 4 to 1. So 4 being the pure colour, and then 3, 2, 1, each having a little bit more white, so making the tint. I think the range is 86 colours, so a big range of colours and some really nice bright reds in this range. Like I say, the first thing you do is you try it on different papers. So it is useful getting a trial pack. I know the SAA do a trial pack which gives you a sheet of different types of paper, because the different pastels do react differently to the different surfaces. I'm going to be using pastel matte, so I won't try it on pastel matte till the demonstration, then you can see all the qualities. The first one I'm going to try it on is a traditional pastel paper. This is on grey. You can see the lines in it. Two-sided, slightly smoother on one side. You can see the grain a little bit on the other side. It's a paper surface, so paper surfaces you expect to put the colour down. Let's see. And then be able to blend. Now, if you do like this soft blending, a traditional paper surface is probably better for you. But you can see these go down, and then you add a lighter colour. And you're able to layer and blend on that. So all of those 3 colours I tried work quite nicely on the paper surface. Let's try velour. So there's a lot of advancement in pastel papers, and this is, I would say fairly new, but it has been around a little while. It feels like a velvet finish, it's flock fabric, and what it does is it grips the pastel. I will be using it in a couple of weeks, so I will be doing a demonstration using it in a couple of weeks. So if you want to tune in then, but it just grabs pastel and it makes this really lovely soft effect. And again, let's just use one of those colours I put on the other way. Now, this paper works lovely with the soft pastels, but not necessarily with pastel pencils. They tend to, well, let's have a look. It may work, but it doesn't, no. You can see here, it doesn't really pick up, and it can dent and scratch the surface. But you practice and you find out how it works, because sometimes you can use the pastel pencil, or you find a softer range of pencils that work with your paper. Now, if you notice here, it doesn't smudge and blend. It grips it. You put lots of layers on. You can just keep putting layers on, and you can start to blend when you get layers on, and then you can start to see there, you can soften a little bit in the next layers. And again, this green which went on the traditional paper did feel a little scratchy, but if I turn it around, I can catch the soft inner side. Look at that. Look how bright those colours are. I'm looking forward to the demonstration in a few weeks with that. And finally, this is UArt sanded paper. So feels like sandpaper, but a smooth finish. And what this does is it grips any colour. So which one is the hardest? I think this green is the hardest. Just grips that, grips the green. Now, I can feel the difference between this colour on here and this colour on here. It drags a little on here. It works fine on there. It's nice and soft, but did you notice the crumbs? You get a lot more crumbling on the paper surface, whereas with this surface, it just grips it. And you do get a little bit of crumbling with it, but it just, you can feel it grabbing the colour. And again, this blends a little, but not as well as on traditional paper until you start putting on layers. So the next layer is on a pastel surface, therefore should blend nicely. So just remember that when you're starting with your lower layers, if they're not blending, just put another layer on and then they will start to blend into one another. With pastel, you're not supposed to blow like that. I mean, I do, and you will find I tend to blow because on some papers you don't want to be brushing it because that will just smudge onto the surface and sometimes you can't take it off. So if you're careful, and it's not recommended, you blow the pastel away from your painting, or you'll notice with these small pieces I'm tapping. Just tapping them off so I'm not blowing the dust away. There's not a lot of dust created, they're fairly dust free, but again it depends on your surface. So test and try, and you may find a unique kind of surface that pastels go on. Pastels are a really pure medium. The colour is, they have a high concentration of colour compared to binder. So they're mostly colour with a little bit of clay, and I think this has got some ceramic porcelain in it just to keep its shape, and water. Then the water evaporates, it dries and it keeps its form, but it has a high concentration of pigment, so I'll have a really nice lay down of colour. Let's put those away, and I'm going to get on with, I've already got green all over my hands, this Conker. So I noticed the other day how quickly the Conker trees lose their leaves. They're actually one of the first that start to lose the leaf. Because I went out the other day to try and find some Conkers and they had gone. So they're an early deciduous tree and they lose their leaves. But I remember as a kid, it was going round at Conker time and collecting Conkers. Now, I have heard the rumour, or it's an old wives' tale really, about they keep away spiders. It doesn't work, especially when you've got them in a pot on the table and you've got a spider sitting on them. It doesn't work. But apparently the Conker, the nut inside, does help keep away moths. It has a chemical in it, a slow release chemical that will keep away moths, so clothes moths especially. So just keep them in a pocket and it may help with clothes moths. I'm just putting colour down and I'm not putting white. Even though the inside of this is white, it's not the first colour I'm going to put on. I'm putting on this lemon yellow. So this lemon yellow, the tint 4 will be nice and yellow because it's got more white in, and this has got the most white in. It's a nice cream colour, and I use it as a nice colour to lay down, give me an idea of where I want to go. It's not neat yet. It's not. It's planning at this stage. This stage is just thinking about where do I need to put colour down. I'm not even going to think about where I'm going to put these spikes. I'm just going to think about shape and a bit of colour to help me think about initial colours. So I might put the browns down. Again, this is, because this Conker's starting to open, it's starting to go brown. You know, if you leave something and you've cut it, those edges start to go brown. Well, because this is splitting open, it's starting to go brown around the edges. So let's see where that is. I did pre-draw using a pastel pencil, but I probably have lost. I need to review where the shapes are again. That's there, that's white, it's actually there, not down there. So even with this colour, I'm actually not just determining where the brown is, I'm also reshaping and thinking about the lines I've sketched down and whether they're actually in the right place. You can move easily on this paper. This paper's quite forgiving. Quite a big. Actually, all these edges are brown. It comes around here. It's brown there. Right, it goes down there, so actually it goes across here. Okay. And while I've got this colour, I'm going to put it inside this lovely Conker shape. Because this is quite a small area and I'm not going over here, I'm able to jump about and I won't lean on the surface. Can't see any brown in there, but I'm sure there is. Goes round here, goes up there, comes down here. Okay. Let's put that on. So you can't see at the moment, but they have lovely lines on. And this is where I'm following a photograph, and I did take photographs of Conkers. I'd gone out on my bike and I laid the bike on the floor and I was down on the ground taking pictures of Conkers, and this gentleman came up and he was really kind. He's actually really nice, and asked if I was okay because I was on the floor with a bike next to me. So actually it was a really kind gesture to do. I just had to kind of explain that, no, I'm taking Conkers, pictures of Conkers, and hope he would walk away and just realise that I wasn't fine. But like I say, it was a really nice gesture that he stopped and asked if I was okay. So I was taking pictures, but I didn't get one like this, so I've got this off the site where you've got free images, because it just was the shape I was looking for. But next year I can go out again and get more images. It's always nice to build up your colour bank, your reference bank. And I'm thinking ahead, I'm thinking of next year. So putting on these layers, now I can get that lovely smooth finish inside here. And I'm not blending with my fingers yet, though I probably will do. I did have a blender, but because this is so grippy, it just wasn't getting such a smooth finish as I wanted. So I actually find that my finger in this paper works. See how that's softened? Because you want to show the difference in texture. So the inner seed, which it is much smoother, it's shiny, it's rounded. Whereas the outer, you can have a lot of fun with. And I'm not putting any light on yet. I'm just starting. It actually needs to be a bit darker because it's inside. So let's bring that up a bit. My full lights and darks aren't going to go on to the end. Right. So let's get some green on. With pastel, you can layer. So just and especially this paper, it's really forgiving. You'll notice I'm not putting anything on as a solid block of colour because I want to put lots more colour on. How bright and green that is. It's a fairly fresh conker. So conkers, also known as horse chestnuts, are actually not suitable for horses because they're actually poisonous, especially when they're young. But have other benefits. They are good for bruises. They have an anti-inflammatory in them. And I know deers can eat them. But on the whole, the tree has a lot of ecological value. And from what I read, I think it was only introduced in about the 1600s, the horse chestnut. Now, the game of conkers, and I'm sure you've played as a kid, has been around for a long time. See, I'm just correcting there. And previous to the conker tree being introduced in 1600s, I think they used hazelnuts in that kind of game of bashing them together, and even snails. So it is a game, an old game. And I think the conker is a French word from hit, meaning hit. Okay. That was a nice light green, and let's pick some of that up again. And you can see, as I do the next layer, I know this looks random and quite messy, but to be honest, you don't have to be completely controlled because you can do that through the layers. This layer is the messy stage, and it's putting colour down, looking at whether that colour is what you want. But with pastel, you can change. You can alter, you can change the texture. But I do want it to be a little rougher because I want the different textures to show through. Nice and smooth and soft inside, opening to this rough, spiky texture on the outside. Let me put my greens together because that will help me choose colours. So let's have a look here. It's another green. What green's that? Hooker's green. Tint 3. So it's not the pure colour. it has a little bit of white in it. It's probably a bit of a unnatural green, but I can go over until I'm happy with the colours I want. You can see here starting to build up. Look at those colours in there, and still messy. Doesn't mean it's all going to be green. I'm going to add yellows and browns. It's darker under here. This is where the conker is sitting on the ground, so it will be darker. And here. Might leave that side that little bit lighter. Okay. So you can see how that is starting to build up. Let's use some of this. I would say it's a raw sienna. So now I can start to look at where this colour may be needed. Just in there, let's take it along that edge. I'm going to bring a bit through here. And here where the conker has broken open. Just here again. Back in with this lighter colour. I just want to show you that you can just have fun putting your colour down, but with pastel you can alter it so easily. I just like to put colour down so you're not sitting there with a bare page, and then I can review and go back in. So I've made a little bit of a error there. I've put brown where it doesn't need to be, but I can fix that. There's two ways of fixing it, to be honest. I could use an eraser and rub it out, but I don't need to. I'm going to just go over and fix it that way. There you go, done. There's a lovely green here, which I think adds to this lighter inner colour. Let's put that here. Shadow there. Let's reevaluate this. I've lost some of that width because the inner softer core is actually quite thick. And I've made it a lot thinner. So let's just bring that round. I'm pushing quite hard now just to put the colour on over those areas because it needs to go on. I've pushed that quite hard. So, like I say, you can blow. If I brushed it, what I'd do is create streaks on there, or if it's not taped down, just tap it. If I'm just making that thicker there, then that reflects the thickness there. Done. Okay. You can see this has some speckles of colour. Let's put some speckles on here. It's these little definitely a bit darker here. And let's use some. That's why I've chosen the Conker, because it's just such a fun shape with lots of colour and texture. You can just have fun with. Right, now I'm going to just start to bring it together. So some of these edges I've rounded down, but you will find I've also got some sharper edges still, which I can now start to bring together. Right. Just take this over here. It goes down in there. I've got a much shallower. Just that in. And then the edge just picking up. Got a lovely, nice dark area here. But you can see, because I've put that area of brown down before, I can pick up some of the textures inside. It's kind of that kind of shape. There's some more areas here. So you can go white over dark, dark over light. It's really useful mediums. And now I'm just putting on some of the spikes I can see. Again, I probably won't get a clean edge at the moment, so pushing down and pulling quickly. So there's definitely one there. There's one there. There's a little one there. The light is shining on my photo, so I can't see them all. Different shapes. So let's go around here. Now these ones are a lot lighter and longer. I think that's really starting to come together now. After looking quite scruffy. But like I say, no one knows what the original looks like. You can have a bit of fun or leave things out, put things in. Different. On there. This is lightly, see how I've just lightly scratched on the surface, making a circular motion. It's actually picking up some of the texture that I can see on this side. Don't want to do too much. It is quite... Okay, let's have a look here. There's definitely one there. One there. A couple of little ones there. Oops, it's a bit long. Little dot there. Now I can bring darker area around. It's definitely a nice. And actually, spike. So let's pick up this edge that goes over there, comes round here. Okay, so let's go darker in here. I don't like to go in too quickly with the darks, because I think this is the bit that you start to pull it together, and you can see where areas start to work. Need to go in that, okay. So these spikes have a little bit of light on the end. Not all of them, some of them still quite dark. Pick that up. Okay. Some of them are just light. Get back in there. Okay, I'll pick up some of these because these are actually and yes, go have a little bit of what colour? Let me try this. I want to just slightly dull down this real brightness of the green. So I'm using the raw sienna, the same colour I've just put on here, just to dull down some areas, because it does look a bit luminescent. Can still darken, because I can still see it needs possibly a little bit more shadow. Well, I've got, I think, talking of shadow, let's go in here. It goes round there. I have different layers of so this is a little darker. I haven't used white yet, so there's still are areas which possibly look a little bit duller. I'm really purposely not putting the white on till very last, because it just suddenly draws everything together. Okay, I think it needs to go darker here. What I could do, because I think that needs to come out a little bit more, so let's take that around there, and then I can bring that in. Okay. So it's just little touches. Right, I know what happens is also these have little raised areas. Where the spikes attach themselves to the softer shell. taking away a little bit of that rounded, smoother feel to the shell. A bit of, and I can use pastel pencil to finish any really fine detail, but what I'm trying to do is to show you that you can actually get quite a lot of detail with these soft pastels. I mean, these are quite long. I would probably break them and use them a little bit smaller, but I'm just keeping them like this just because they're new. I have created a colour chart of all the colours, so it is worth, when you get your pastels, to create a colour chart. Reason is, if you take these labels off, you don't know what you have colour it is. And then I laminate. Now laminating does change the colours a little bit, it makes them much brighter, but it does protect. I tried using a fixative, and I did it on a paper surface, so a cartridge paper, put the colour down, and then I laminated it just as a reference. But like I say, the colours do get a little darker, but it gives me enough to know, because I've put the pigment, the colour next to it. So in the future, if I want to replace a colour, hopefully I'll have enough information to be able to replace the colour. Okay, a little bit of. So what's going on in here? That's the wrong colour. Let's use this. It's better. Not as bright. I'm going to now go with the black. I've tried to avoid it because it's usually the last thing, other than the white, that I would do. But I think I'm nearly there, else I'll keep adding and go over some of these textures I actually quite like. See, they're just adding that black. Just brings another dimension. They seem to have a very dark outline. This is very dark in here. And this is why the reason I'm left it till last to go in, because I can lose some of the colours. Okay. Let's just bring that round. Use my finger to take some of the colour up, because it actually is a bit too bright. Look how easy that was. Same here, soften. And just fine out with this white now. So I lost that shape, let's bring that back. Okay. Actually is a lot lighter. Pick that up. A bit more light on here. edges. So I'm looking at textures as well. So instead of softening that, I'm going to just have little flecks of the white. Comes up there. Just quite like that bit. And I'm not going to blend that in. The only bit I'm going to have blended and softened is the inside here, because I want that to be put some light on there. Dampen that down a little bit. It's not. Change that a little bit, bring that out a bit. Correct that. So you can see with pastel, you can just go in, you can correct darker green. Let's just darken down some of this. So we have a little bit more depth. I'm using the side because that's quite light. I want it to be darker. Just adds a little bit more dimension, so it's not all very green and bright. Okay. I'm going to put something for it to sit on. I'm just going to, so it's on the ground, it has leaf litter around it. Let's just put some colour. And that needs to darken. Normally I would have a dark blue or a purple, but I've got a black, so you're just thinking about if this was sitting on the ground, it will have some shadow. Notice I'm using the edge just to pick up some different texture. Right, let's darken these because it's looking too bright. And you can't always do that till the end, until you see how dark you've got your needs more texture. I've lost a little bit here. Still see the green a little. Nearly done. I just want to add a little bit more. And make this as dark as I can. That will push that back. lost a few of these, so I'll just put them back. I can see there, and he's darkened them. I haven't finished this off yet. I think that works. I've probably got it everywhere. So I'm just showing you how you can create a horse chestnut or a conker using the new SAA Soft Pastels on anthracite pastel matte paper. And you can see I just put colour down, had fun with the colour, looking at the texture, this lovely smooth texture inside here, which I've blended in compared to just layering pure colour on top of each other to create the outer shell of this conker. So I hope you enjoyed that, and join me again soon for some more live demonstrations. Won't be live next week, but hopefully in the coming near future, plenty of live demonstrations for you. So join us again soon.